In this video, I'm going to be revealing everything that I know about wholesale sourcing for Amazon FBA. These sourcing methods have helped me make £270,000 in profit this year from £1.9 million in sales. Now, this isn't going to be your basic kind of buy anything from Cogita like a lot of these gurus are going to be telling you. This is going to be a full-length wholesale sourcing course completely for free. So I'll be talking you through all of the aspects of wholesale sourcing, from how to find wholesale suppliers, the product criteria that I use, and what I always check before making any purchases. I'm even going to tell you how you can completely automate the process of finding these products for wholesale. So let's get into it. So let's dive right in with how to source profitable products for Amazon FBA with wholesale. First up, let's talk about definitions, because it's important before I get into the kind of deep nitty-gritty details so you actually understand what I'm talking about. So wholesale sourcing is basically where you're buying from either the brand directly, or more commonly, a distributor for that brand. You're not just buying it from like Argos and Sainsbury's. Like a lot of the products that I usually buy, it's not a retailer kind of purchase. These are proper wholesale companies that only sell to businesses in large quantities. You're always going to be quite restricted in how you pay for things. It's going to always be usually bank transfer rather than, you know, credit cards and Klarna and everything else that retailers accept. And you're not just going to be able to buy 1 or 2 units here and there. It's going to be big quantities, and you're usually going to have to stick to pack sizes as well. The general idea though is that because you're buying those products in such a big quantity that you're going to get a discount because of that quantity. The larger you buy, the cheaper per unit stuff should really be. And the further up the supply chain you can go, the better your margins are going to be. The closer you can get to the brand directly, the less middlemen you're going to have to go through who are all adding their 5 or 10% commission to the top. And that means you're getting at better prices, which means better profit for you. Now, I will admit, right, wholesale is not my main sourcing method. Far from it. It's one of my least used sourcing methods. I much prefer online arbitrage because I just find it easier. I find you get better margins. And I definitely think that wholesale is a game that really lends itself to the big players. I'm not talking about people with 10, 20 grand. I'm talking about people with hundreds of thousands, if not millions of pounds to spend on stock. That said, you know, I found plenty of good deals with wholesale suppliers. I've made a lot of money from wholesale. I'm not discrediting it. I'm just saying that it's not my main sourcing method. I much prefer online arbitrage. So what are the actual benefits of doing wholesale? Why should you choose to do wholesale over something else? For me, the number one thing has got to be less competition from small sellers. You're not going to have those people with, you know, 2 or 3 reviews on the listing who get super scared when the price dips by a penny and just tank the listing to oblivion, at least in theory. Now that said, you may not have the small players tanking the listings, but then you do sometimes have these massive companies that do have millions to spend on stock, and because they're buying so much of every product they buy, they're just getting it cheaper than you. And they then come onto the listing and they set their price at a tenner when you've been happily selling it at 20 quid. You might be buying it at a tenner, but they're buying it at like £2, so that you just can't compete. And that's why I say that wholesale really lends itself to those kind of big players. Now, you can also sometimes find products with better margins. It has been the case with products before where I've been researching them, I've bought them through online arbitrage, but I've just found a wholesaler that's cheaper. But probably the main reason why a lot of people do wholesale is just the ability to replenish products consistently. With online arbitrage, you're usually quite restricted into how much you can buy, like unit wise, of a product. And it's also not often possible to restock that same product. You know, maybe it was just a one-time coupon code or one-time promotion that you took advantage of. And it often means with online arbitrage, I definitely find this myself, that you're always just chasing that next product. You're not usually going back to those same things, replanning stuff. Meanwhile, with wholesale, most big wholesale sellers that I've talked to say they do like a few big purchase orders a month, and they're not just constantly trying to find new products. Once they've got those solid items that they're selling, they just keep buying more of it month on month. So how do you actually get into wholesale? So firstly, I would recommend that you're registered as a limited company. A lot of people, when they're a small seller or they're first starting out with Amazon, they're just a sole trader or just selling personally. That's not really going to cut it when you're doing wholesale. You know, you've got to look professional. It really is about kind of appearances and looking like you know what you're doing and you're a proper company. I would also say that it helps mandatory / is completely necessary to be VAT registered. You can just register for VAT straight away when you make a company. Most people in the Amazon space tend to avoid this because it means slightly lower margins on things because of the more taxes that you pay. But when you're dealing with these big companies, not being VAT reg is kind of a sign of unprofessionalism. Not to mention the best wholesale deals are always going to come from abroad. That all the people that I know that are doing like serious numbers in wholesale are usually imported from countries like Poland and Eastern Europe. And because of that, they have to be VAT reg because of how customs work with having an EORI number and all this complex stuff that honestly, I don't fully understand. Research is also so key to doing wholesale. You need to be searching for brands. You need to be looking up products on like Keeper Product Finder, finding your kind of best picks for brands and products you should sell. You got to be reaching out to those companies. You got to be reaching out to the distributors for those brands. And you just got to be spending a huge amount of time, especially at the start, just finding these initial products that you can get buy-in. I can't really go into too much detail on exactly how to find products on this because it is something that I have in my course, and it would just be unfair to the people that have signed up to just kind of expose on YouTube what they've kind of paid for. But Google is your best friend. You just want to be Googling everything you could possibly find and just tracking down these companies to work with. When you're doing this research as well, I would say shy away from the really big brands. You know, don't start out going, okay, how do I get a load of Samsung products? Or how do I get a load of like Nestle products? These absolutely massive companies. Try and find those kind of small players that are still doing good volume on Amazon, where there's more of an opportunity because they're not kind of picking between you, the guy with 10 grand, and the guy with 10 million to invest in their products. It gives you a lot more kind of space to breathe amongst the heavy competition that there is in this space, if you can find those small brands that other people aren't really paying attention to. So what are some kind of wholesalers that you can use to kind of start making money with Amazon? So there is a site called Quagita. They're really great. They're super accessible for Amazon sellers, which is actually kind of rare for wholesalers, but I'll get into that later. And they're basically not a wholesaler themselves. They're a wholesale marketplace. So it means you're buying from thousands of different wholesalers that are all selling through their platform. Now they do vet every single seller that comes on the platform. They inspect their products, they visit their warehouses, they really do their due diligence, but you should be a bit wary of the sellers that aren't marked as kind of top sellers. Only because these people are kind of really small, you never know. They might have fooled Quagita somehow. They might have, you know, started selling legit products at first and then shifted to fake ones, or have delivery issues. I would always recommend, if you can, stick to the guys that have that top rated seller badge. I'd also recommend that you only stick to deals that have marketplace invoices available. You'll always be able to check that before you buy, but it basically just means, do they provide invoices that will be accepted by Amazon? If they don't, then if you get any kind of IP claims, or if you just need to ungate that product, it's not really going to be possible with the documentation they'll provide. Now, aside from Quagita, unfortunately, that is the only supplier I'm going to talk about publicly, because it makes no sense for me to just come on YouTube and expose like all of my best wholesale suppliers. It just doesn't. I'm sorry guys, maybe in another video someday, but for now it's just up to you to kind of implement what I've told you in this video and find your own people. So now I've clued you up on kind of the basics of how to find these suppliers. Let me show you some deal analysis so you understand what to actually look for when you're looking at these wholesale deals. So I'm about to show you 3 different wholesale deals that I've recently seen offered by a wholesale supplier that I actually use. So these are actual real wholesale deals, and this is my honest opinion on them and whether or not I would buy them. Now, this same wholesale supplier, I actually introduce all of my mentorship clients to. It's someone it's just a really small kind of unknown wholesaler, but it's someone that I've been using for quite a while now. I don't always have enough cash to actually buy out everything that they have. And it works quite well as well to get kind of group discounts on things if I have more people involved in buying this sort of stuff. As I said earlier, wholesale is all about buying power and just having more money to spend. So yeah, everyone in the mentorship program gets introduced to this supplier. But anyway, I will show you the deals. So on screen now, you'll be able to see this Carolina Herrera, I think that's how you say it, this perfume. So these are at $52.18, including VAT. Does about 300 sales per month. You can see it doesn't have a buy box right now, but it did about a day ago. If we have a look, it was getting the buy box, yeah, like $78.50. And it seems just as it's gone up to, I think the lowest price on the listing is, yeah, 80 quid. So that £2 difference, if people just drop the price, or you drop the price if you're on this listing just by £2, then you should actually be able to get that buy box back. So that is completely fine. I wouldn't be worried about this at all. So it's October at the time I'm recording this. We've got Christmas coming up, and perfume does absolutely crazy numbers at Christmas. So that's kind of my main angle of this being a Christmas kind of buy. And you can see over the past 90 days, it's gone from selling 100 times a month, already topping out like 400. Now, if we go back and look at the past 365 days, you can see last Christmas, it was doing about 400 to 600 at this sort of time. And then come December, it went crazy and hit 1,000+ units a month. Now, after that, mid-December, it completely dropped off. But you know why? It's because there was just no one in stock on this listing at a reasonable reasonable price. Everyone else was trying to sell it for like £100. So you've got FBM at £100, but there's no buy box. But just before people sold out, people were selling it and getting the buy box at about £82.99, which, as you can see around this sell price, is really good profit and ROI. So that's what I'm kind of aiming for. I think worst case, we'd be selling this for about 77, 78 quid, which is obviously less profit and ROI, but not really a concern. It's still profitable. And just with the sales volume as well, this would be perfect for wholesale, because my supplier actually had about 700 units in stock. So had I had the capital at the time, I would have taken all 700 of these, got them sent into Amazon as soon as possible, just in time for that Christmas rush, just to kind of profit off of that, really, because as we know from last December, it would have done that in 3 weeks of volume. As for competition on the listing, we've got fairly minimal competition. You see this guy has just appeared, but I don't think they're based in the UK because their delivery time wasn't adding up, so we can kind of discount that guy. But even so, even at 76, it's still good profit and ROI, so nothing to really be concerned about. There's obviously a few other FBM sellers, but they're all at higher prices. And really with wholesale, you're looking at this stuff in basically the same way as online arbitrage listings. Usually the only difference is you're buying a lot more stock. But on this listing, yeah, we can see a really straight price chart. We can see really high monthly sold throughout the year. Even in like summer sort of time, it's still selling 100 to 200 times a month. So this would be an absolute no-brainer of a purchase. I was actually all out of cash when I got emailed this deal by this wholesale company, but I sent it on to the mentorship clients and they cleared out all of the stock. So yeah, really good to see. Next up, we got this crispy chili oil. I actually have a pot of this in my cupboard at home, and my girlfriend was quite disappointed when I told her I wasn't going to be buying a pallet of it. But again, I was just out of capital. I'd already bought everything my Amex could possibly allow me to buy. It was just kind of a case of wrong timing on this one. But yeah, you can see the demand on this is huge, 2,000 plus sales a month. We've got good profit ROI. Obviously the profit is quite small. It's only 85p profit per like jar. But that is simply down to the fact that it's just a cheap item. You know, there's not unlimited money to be made in this, in a £9.47 kind of purchase. So I got my sale price set at £9.99. The reason why is because this is some free sauce for you. On a lot of these really high volume listings, there's not a lot of point doing what these few sellers are doing and being at $9.47. You will, just because of the volume and how Amazon works with the buy box, you'll still get sales at £9.80, £9.90. And I'm sure if you go and check on these sellers here, if you go and check on the stock count for Keeper, you will see that they are moving units, even though they're at a higher price. I've seen this time and time again on super high volume, cheap listings. And if you are one of these people that routinely just goes to the lowest price, you're just losing money. Just stay at a higher price, you know, 20, 30p above what other people are selling at. You still get sales, because it's all about, you know, how Amazon decides to buy box, where your stock is in the country and stuff like that. But yeah, similar sort of deal with this one as the last one. Super straight line graph, super high volume throughout the year. Don't really know what happened there. It seems just like for a month, everyone forgot they wanted their chili oil. It's probably some sort of glitch. So there's nothing else to really say, really. I mean, this is a really high selling listing, really good profit ROI, and I would have bought a lot of these had I had the cash to at the time. And then final deal I'll go through today is another chili oil, weirdly enough. Good thing about these food products as well is they're 0 rated for VAT, so you get a little bit of extra margin there as well. But yeah, very similar to the last listing, really good volume here. Good ROI, obviously low profit per unit, but again, it's a £7.30 jar of chili oil. You're not going to make unlimited profit in that per unit, and it's really all about buying in large quantities for these sort of deals, which is why wholesale really lends itself to these sort of deals. But yeah, as we can see on the graph, oh, okay, there actually was, Amazon have been in and out of stock at like £6.24. Oh, I hadn't actually spotted that. So £6.24 is looking a bit unprofitable. Now if we hover over the profit calculator, okay, so this is a 50p prep fee that I've got set up on Profit Go right now. Good thing about this wholesale company is they actually deal with all the prep for you. They send it into Amazon for you, they deal with the prep, the palletizing it up, sending it off, everything they deal with, which is why I love them so much. So this actually would be profitable because I wouldn't be paying that 50p prep fee, or at least break even. And being that Amazon has been in and out of stock and not actually taking the buy box a lot of time, I would say this is still worth a purchase, especially with the volume. It's quite odd really that for literally the past 6 months they've been in and out of stock but never actually really taken the buy box. You can see on Profit Go where you see that little pink dot where it says BB. You can see Amazon is at £6.24. They're just not getting the buy box, so they're not getting any sales. This is selling at £7.49 or £7.39. So I would say this is still a good purchase. A little bit risky, but it's like worst case you break even. And of course, with these sort of products, you don't really get returns on like tech and stuff like that. So it's, yeah, not really a concern at all. There's also fairly minimal competition on this listing as well. So yeah, all seems good to me. I would definitely buy this product. What you want to avoid is products where there's really choppy price history, lots of points in the past 90 and 180 days that are just unprofitable. I'd say the main key difference is because you're buying more stock with wholesale, you've got to be looking at the longer, bigger picture. Rather than just focusing on the last like 30 and 90 days, zoom out a little bit, think about it over the past 6 months to a year, because you're likely going to be buying several months worth of stock at once, not just like 1 month's worth, which is kind of the standard with arbitrage. So now I want to talk a little bit about the software that can make your life easier if you're doing wholesale. So there's a couple bits of software that I want to tell you about, because as I explained earlier, it does take a lot of research and it can be pretty time consuming, especially at first, to find these sort of deals. So this can make your life a little bit easier. So first up, we've got the LiveCops Genius AI bot. So this is accessible in the LiveCops Discord server, which is like 50 quid a month. And essentially it's constantly searching Quag Eater for the products on that platform, matching them to Amazon listings. And then it uses AI to check the deals itself. It looks at the price history, the sales per month, the profit, all of those kind of important factors that you usually check yourself. And if it thinks there's a good deal to be had, it will flag that up in the LiveCops Discord server. So you can see here, you can see it gives you a little deal summary. It tells you the sales per month and the profit of this deal. Unfortunately, it seems like for this one, they only had 15 in stock, which is a bit of a pain given the sales volume, because with that kind of profit, it would be really nice to get more, but you know, that's what happens sometimes. You can see it gives it a little glimpse of the keeper graph down here. You can see it's a fairly straight graph. You know, it only goes up in this picture. So at this kind of price where it's calculating, it's still going to be profitable, I reckon. Overall, just looks like a good deal. And it's pinging loads of deals like this every single day in the LiveCops server. So there's a little link on screen now if you're interested in kind of learning more about that. Next up as well is Profit Path. So this bit of software has loads of different features for online arbitrage mainly, but they also offer a wholesale scanner. So where this can actually help is not actually finding wholesale suppliers, but once you've got a wholesale supplier and they sent you some huge spreadsheet with thousands of different products that they stock, you can put it straight into Profit Path and it will work through that list, match it up to Amazon, tell you if anything is worth buying. It's super time saving and definitely a good approach to work through huge supplier lists, especially when, in my experience, a lot of wholesale suppliers just don't have many good products. You don't have to check through 10,000 products and find like 2 good items to buy. You want a bit of software like this to be doing the heavy lifting. So again, there's a QR code and link on screen if you are interested in learning more about that. Otherwise, let me give you a few tips on how to kind of get this right and some stuff to think about when you're doing wholesale. So firstly is that phoning companies is going to have a much higher success rate than just cold emailing them and just telling them about how you want to buy their products. If you think about it, there are a lot of people doing this sort of thing. They're getting loads of emails all the time. It's not very personal as well. They'll just assume you're sending that same email to hundreds of different suppliers, hoping a few buy. If you actually call them up and you say, hello, sir, I want your XYZ, and you name specific products and tell them specifically why you're interested in their company and not another company, that's when you're going to have more success. I'd also caution you, as you know, you're going to be doing this to sell stuff on Amazon. A lot of wholesalers don't want to sell to Amazon sellers. This is because of restrictions the brand put on and various other things like that, but simply they just don't want to sell to Amazon sellers. A really easy way around that is what I've done before, where I've actually created a whole website where I've basically said that I'm selling the products through that website. In reality, I'm making no sales at all, and really I'm just selling those products on Amazon. But it means you can contact them from that website, you know, felixsstore.com, and you can say, oh yeah, I'm really interested in selling these products on my store. Are you able to supply them? And a lot of wholesalers, this will kind of pull the wool over their eyes as such. It's a little bit cheeky, but you know, sometimes in business, that's what you got to do. So that said, you know, this is a method that a lot of people know about. Surprisingly, I actually know of someone or a Discord group as such that is selling this kind of technique for thousands of pounds. I won't name names, but if you've purchased their course, you probably know who I'm talking about. But, you know, that's just some free sauce. I don't think that's a good enough thing to really gatekeep, especially nowadays when the success rate is definitely lower. I think wholesalers definitely have clocked onto that a little bit, especially if your store has like no reviews and has only been created in the past couple months. They might be a little bit suspicious. And definitely if you can get some sales on that store, you know, sell some of your other products and that product itself through that store, maybe even run some ads. At that point, you are just setting up an actual business, and there's nothing wrong with that. Finally, I want to say, make sure you're using a branded email address with custom domain. Just don't just email them from like felixthecat@gmail.com. It's not going to work. They're going to think you're super unprofessional and they probably won't even bother to reply. Get a branded email address. It's fairly cheap to do. You get it for like 10, 20 quid a month. And that way it just makes you look a little bit more professional. So there you have it. That is everything that you need to know about Amazon FBA wholesale sourcing. Now, to be honest, it is more for advanced sellers. And even at that, it's not even my #1 sourcing method. There is definitely a limit on how many deals that can be found per day with wholesale. And it does require a lot more effort than other sourcing techniques. Thankfully, the secret sourcing methods, which are reserved for just my mentorship students, offer a much more reliable and diverse alternative, which finds deals from all across the internet that are virtually impossible to find with any other sourcing methods. These 3 sourcing methods have helped me scale to having months as high as £50,000 in profit, all whilst only working a couple hours per day on my store. They've also helped my students scale their businesses too. So if you'd like to take the time and effort out of product sourcing, then head down below to the video description and click the link at the top to book in your free consultation call today. On that call, we can discuss where you're at with your Amazon business, your plans for the future, and whether you're actually a good fit for my mentorship program. Finally, make sure to like and subscribe if you found this video useful, and click up here to watch my video on Amazon to Amazon sourcing, where I go into the same amount of detail as I have in this video, but this time just on Amazon to Amazon sourcing.